The basic building blocks of TV shows that have grabbed my attention, I've found, mainly consist of 7 things. Spoilers ahead for these shows. The first is probably the most important when it comes to any medium of entertainment: strong characters and/or strong character development. I make the distinction between these two because when we're talking about a serialized drama, the characters like Walter White or Arya Stark more than likely will develop along the way, while sitcom characters like Sam Malone or Dwight Schrute tend to stay the same way throughout. You can't have a good piece of entertainment, whether it be a book, movie, or TV show, without having strong characters. And strong characters means people with flaws. Some of the best shows implement this perfectly. On the development side of things, Walter White, as mentioned before, his entire character is about his flaw of being a power-hungry egomaniac focused solely on himself, all the while dragging his family further into his web of danger.
I am the danger.
We see Walter, as the show creators say, go from Mr. Chips to Scarface. The entire show is built around his development into Heisenberg. Example B on the strong characters side of things would be Homer from The Simpsons. Homer, needless to say, has plenty of flaws, from being a bad father with good intentions to being lazy to being an overall buffoon, but we still love him. Why? Because Homer's relatable to almost everyone in some way. Who hasn't done something stupid in their lives and cursed themselves? Who hasn't dreamed of eating the greasiest, fattiest food in existence? He's all of us in more than one way. Disney Plus has seemed to catch on to the fact that strong characters make up most of the good TV shows. That's why they just straight up call their shows the title character's name. Mad Men, The Office, and The Good Place all greatly exemplify strong characters and development of those characters. You don't want a Piper Chapman who gets irrelevant to her own story by season 3. The next hugely important thing to make a great TV show is definitely having an interesting world. Now, this is more focused on fantasy and sci-fi TV shows, as they rely on creating new environments. Lost, Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, The Mandalorian, and the list goes on. All exemplify a setting that watchers can be invested in, making it easier to relate to, going back to point number 1, the characters. If you don't have a world, universe, setting, etc., your TV show will most likely not work. Game of Thrones, I think, would be the best example to highlight, as Westeros has its own rules with different types of magic, and the way it's designed gives it plenty of room for conflict, which I spoiled. That's the next point. You'll notice that almost all of these points relate to one another. One props up the other and vice versa. Conflict, conflict, conflict. It's like your oven heating up the batter in your TV show cake. It's what makes the strong characters interact with each other inside of your interesting world. It's basically the most basic building block of a story, because if there isn't any conflict, you don't have a story, especially not one that can last over multiple seasons. Going back to basic elementary English, there are generally 3 types of conflict: man versus man versus nature/society, and man versus self. Breaking Bad does man versus man great with Walter versus Gus, although it does an exceptional job with man versus self as well. Billions is also an amazing example of a chess match between Bobby Axelrod and Chuck Rhodes, especially in the first season. They keep trying to one-up each other, and it makes for great entertainment. Game of Thrones gives Ned a run for his money when he's up against the society and politics of Westeros. And Tony Soprano, I feel, is the best example of man versus self, because he's struggling with his 2 lives of being a father and the head of a crime organization. All have continuous conflict throughout, even in almost every scene. While we're here, remember to like and subscribe. It really helps us out. Moving on to the 4th point, sustainability. Obviously, when you're dealing with a TV show, you need to have some way to keep viewers tuned in. You need your story to sustain its momentum. A clever way to keep this momentum going, if your story is more about the characters instead of a regular point A to point B plot, is breaking it into arcs. Now, this is a common practice in the anime world as well as TV shows based off of comics, like The Walking Dead. They'll have the Governor arc, then the Alexandria arc, then Negan and All Out War arcs to keep the story alive with the next obstacle in our characters' paths. Longer stories like Lost unveil new parts of their world, introduce clever writing tools like flashbacks, flash forwards, and flash sideways to breathe new life every now and then. Procedurals are the easiest type of sustainability, as they literally tell a new story every week that wasn't connected to last week. Sure, it could have an overarching story in the meantime, but mostly they tell the crime of the week in shows like Law & Order and CSI. Next, you're going to need dialogue that fits the tone that you're going for. Some of the best shows are known solely for this. The Newsroom and The West Wing both have sharp, fast-paced, quippy dialogue Aaron Sorkin is known for. How I Met Your Mother made terms like,
"It's gonna be legend," wait for it, "dairy, legendary,"
and the whole
Ted, just, okay?
thing a staple in their dialogue. The way the characters talk to one another is important to revealing who they are. In Game of Thrones, it's almost entirely a game of wits and who can out-talk the other person. Some of the most iconic scenes of the show consist of just 2 characters sitting in a room together. And lastly, I think the most important thing when it comes to TV shows specifically is knowing when and how to end it. The stake in the heart for any TV show is one that has gone on way past its prime to when it's merely a husk of what it once was. A lot of times it's sad to watch, and I think I've only seen 2 shows get it right, and those would be Breaking Bad and Avatar: The Last Airbender. The reason these 2 shows are almost perfect television shows is because they follow nearly every point that I brought up in this video, let alone the most important. They got in, told their story, ended it by tying up most, if not all, loose ends and got out. Boom, that's it. And today they're beloved classics. Shows that haven't followed this advice, you could fill an encyclopedia, but I'll just use 4 examples. The Simpsons. Pretty self-explanatory. These guys are on season 33 at the time of recording this video, and I think they're renewed for 34. Needless to say, the creativity that The Simpsons once had has all but dried up, and it's frankly sad to watch. The same principle applies to The Walking Dead, but this could most likely be attributed to the constant switching of showrunners and visions. Lost may have ended at the right time, but due to the nature of the storytelling and not knowing where exactly it wanted to go, and the need to fake out the audience, led to its overall lackluster final season. This is the best example for ending it on time, but not in the right way. And lastly, Game of Thrones, which I think ended too soon. The players just had too much development to get done, and to have all of that go down in 2 shortened seasons just was never going to work. The show needed to be at least 2 seasons longer to really nail that ending. And those are my top 7 reasons for successful TV shows. If you liked this video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, share with people you know, maybe people who are interested in writing for TV. Also, leave a comment with any TV shows I might have missed. Click on the links right here to check out some of our podcasts and other videos.